Welcome to Call Your Hits, a Storm Riders Airsoft podcast. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Today, we are doing something that you have all been asking for. Well, maybe not all of you, but at least two of you have been asking for.
More of you than we expected.
Yeah. A little while ago, I asked you, our community, to submit some pictures of your replicas or replicas that you own, not necessarily the ones you use all the time, for us, this is to say Pat and I, to rank them on a tier list. So the last time we did a tier list, we sort of looked at just replicas in general, and we thought it would be fun to look at what you guys specifically are using. So I had the thread open for about a week, and it gave you the opportunity to submit some things. If this is something that you like, if you enjoy this format, please let us know in the comments. Let us know on the Discord, and we will certainly do a round 2 if you guys like this enough.
I just am excited because apparently the Discord likes getting mad at me for
yeah,
complaining about stuff. Love it.
So we received 16 submissions from different people on the Discord. So I limited to one per person. And so I'm going to share.
Just so that Chaz doesn't submit his entire armory, right?
Yeah, well, actually, we didn't have any submissions from Chaz. So we'll be ranking them on a tier list, starting at the top with best of the best, going down to looking good, going to getting there, need something more, and finally, I almost threw up just looking at it. And I'll put them up on the big screen so we can see what the replica looks like. You don't have to look at these little tiny pictures, and then we'll come back and we will rank them on the actual tier list. So replica number
I feel like
1.
we should have done this one live.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun, but live and learn. Yeah. So replica number 1 is sent to us by Matt. This is Matt's main replica. HPA, not that we're talking about internals, but it is an HPA M4. It's a Lancer, I believe. And he's got a little bit of flair on there. So I'm curious, is there anything in particular you notice about it right off the hop?
So the first two things, other than the Storm Rider sticker, 10 out of 10.
Yes, very good taste. Very good taste.
That's minty. Is the probably an English teacher thing. I saw words, so I had to read them. So I'm just like, this machine kills. Man, your handwriting is worse than some of my students. Like, I'm impressed.
In Matt's defense, he hasn't been in school in a while.
Well, and it's also still better than mine.
Yes, yeah, well, that's setting the bar very high.
True, my students make fun of my handwriting literally daily. So, like, does Matt live somewhere tropical?
I think Matt really likes the Hawaiian shirt vibes. I know we've been talking about it for Iron Horse. He's going to be rocking like a Hawaiian shirts.
Okay, so it's more of just a like we're theming the gun so it blends into the Hawaiian shirt that's part of our drip.
Yeah, maybe so. And I think functionally, I think what's really, I mean, we've had conversations with Matt before, but like functionality and aesthetics are two separate things, I think, in Matt's sort of taste, right? So everything that he has is super functional and it works really well and it does exactly what it's supposed to, but the way it looks is down to vibes, I guess, right? And
yeah, I mean, like the way he's got it kitted out looks super great to me in terms of like mechanical, like how does this work? How does this handle? I think it'd be a great gun to use. Probably I'd want a foregrip on it, but that's just like a thing Pat just is too used to.
Yeah.
I also have to say, like, whoever painted the flowers, they're actually pretty artistically done. Like, I like them.
Yeah, totally. I would agree.
You know, I feel like it's definitely not the vibe I go for in terms of how I want my airsoft kit, like, colorized. But, you know, I do kind of dig it.
So where would you put this if on the tier list? I mean, it's the first one, so we reserve the right to change stuff around later on.
I mean, I'm already seeing a thing that I'm going to have to rate best of the best there. So like, we got to put it a little below that. Well, it looks good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I would agree.
Like that's a setup that either of us would run.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think, you know, like I can't really imagine anything that I would add to it that would make it look better than it is. I mean, some people say, yeah, but you can take stuff away. I'm like, yeah, but that's not really the vibe. And I think, you know, if playing around the village and all this kind of stuff, like in CQC environments, like the way
I
that
mean,
it
like,
looks, it's fun, right?
yeah, man. I mean, like, it for CQC, it's fantastic. I think, at a certain distance, it's probably also fine. It's the sort of median where you need the camo to work for you that it might run into some problems.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's also just it's fun, and we're kind of here for fun vibe. Like, airsoft is a thing to do with a certain awareness, in my view, that it is a fun hobby, to bring a sense of humor, and it definitely does that for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I do like the Hawaiian flower vibe, but I also live in like a frozen wasteland.
Yeah.
So there is that balancer, but like, it looks cool, man. It makes me happy.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, cool. All right. So now let's look at number 2. Number 2 is a TM MP5. I'm just going to. Oh, I'm zoomed in. That's why. So number 2 is a TM MP5
We're sitting here
submitted
like,
by
that's not
Club.
an MP5.
Yep. So it's basically it's a TM MP5. It has a foam-filled suppressor, and it's I think he mentioned he had a bunch of SEMA like externals and stuff. And he wanted to note that you can see that there's a run cam on the top rail, but it is off center, so it doesn't actually block
Okay.
the red dot that he
That
has.
actually was the first thing I was going to ask. So
Yeah.
like, spot on on telling us that.
And full disclosure, I didn't realize there was a suppressor on that replica until I actually looked for it. So, yeah.
So a lesson here is that multicam fabric tape works well on your backyard.
Yes, exactly right.
So like, first off, other than the scope cam thing being like, oh, that is off center. Okay, perfect. So the red dot works. All right, cool. Because that was my first question.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't get me wrong. If you're like, oh no, I snap shoot fine, whatever. Fair enough. But I'm here for the red dot. I really like the skeletonized folding stock on an MP5. That's super cool.
Yeah.
This is like, I think it's too modern for an MP5 for me personally.
I would agree with that.
Like, I'm in basically the same spot you are, where I'm like, give me either just like the flashlight foregrip or like an SD6, because that's just what I used for way too many games of Rogue Spear back in the day. Like,
yeah.
How old are you, Pat? I am. That was my game in high school. Old.
Yeah, we are geriatric millennials. It's okay.
I'll just go get my walker. Fortuitously, my walker can mount a 249.
Yes.
So that being said, I've also never seen a like key mod rail on an MP5, and it looks super slick. Like, it is very cool. Like, I really, both for practicality and aesthetics, I like this replica a lot. Like, I assume that if that's a foam filled suppressor, it's super quiet on HPA.
Yeah.
It should basically do everything you want. I feel a little bit like, excuse me, I feel a little bit like this should perform basically like Steph's super shorty 416 does, in terms of like where the barrel length and stuff should put it. I mean, I think, is he still on a Kythera on that? I don't remember. This definitely is, because it's got the pull tab. But like, either way, like on a Kythera, that thing was beasto. So I assume this is, and like with my suppressor with the foam in it on it, it was also super, super quiet. So
yeah.
I feel like, from a personal point of view, like the only reason I knock this below like really excellent tier is that I think I'd probably just build this in a 416 shorty if I wanted a short gun. But that's more me attempting to accrue wisdom from the fact that I keep buying SMGs and being like, this is too small.
Yeah. I don't mind. Obviously, I don't mind a short gun. I'm a shorter dude, so I don't have the same sort of problems that you have, ergonomically. I would agree, though. I think it is pretty modern looking. The key mod rail is cool. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just, I don't know. It's not like, when I see an MP5, I definitely would prefer it to look more classic for my money, right? Like, obviously, I'm sure, and knowing Flubby, like, he does a lot of tech work and all this kind of stuff. So I'm sure it works totally fine. And from like a functional standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, I think there's too much going on in terms of like stuff on it.
It's just not the MP5 you and I want to cuddle.
Yeah.
Like,
so where do you think we're putting that on the tier list then?
It's funny. I feel like I have to put it in like getting there.
Yeah,
because
agree.
I like it a lot. But if you swapped out the handguard for a flashlight handguard, I'd like it a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's one of those weird, like how often do either of us go like, no, we want you to make it slightly less functional, please?
Yeah, yeah. And like the foregrip that's there, like the full long one, like I'm not sure how much I like that, but I think it's getting there. I think for me, like it's sort of middle of the pack. So I'll just move this into getting there.
And like this is definitely, like we've said, not entirely about functionality, because like game wise, yeah, I would rock that all day.
Mm-hmm.
Aesthetics, it's not what I'd build an MP5 into externally. Internally, I'm pretty sure it's exactly what I build an MP5 into.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, let's look at number 3. So this is Ambo's Tipman M4. So he has
Sure this doesn't belong to John?
Yeah, he has a vortex optic on there. He's got backup sights, a suppressor, and a like a cheapo handguard, is what he said, or cheapo like foregrip or whatever, angled foregrip.
Yeah. I mean, like I've used real AFG, and I've used I'm pretty sure this was sold at like Toys R Us angled foregrip. Same deal. I prefer the vertical ones, but like that's just a ergonomics / my weird arms and wrists. I don't know, like M Sasquatch, carry on. This looks super effective to me. Like this looks like a thing that would be super, super good to game, like in terms of anywhere that has good like cover, good filth to get really down super low into.
Yeah, so Ambo's deal is really like recon. Like when he plays at Border War and stuff, like he and his team are really about the recon life.
He's kind of the opposite of our first one.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's super, super muted. I'd say he probably has more paint on than the first one did. But it's super muted. I think the paint job, I feel like, is pretty unique actually. Like when you see what like we've done typically, which is just basically using like a laundry mesh or something like that, and just doing like 2, maybe 3 colors. But he's got a lot of different lines in a lot of different directions.
It's interesting because as I look at it, I feel like he's broken it up. Like I've got 3 distinct camo patterns on the one gun, which I suspect does a really good job of breaking up the gun silhouette in the field at a distance. Like I suspect that doesn't look like what it is from 30 or 40 feet away.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I would suspect that it probably even looks, like you say, not like what it looks like, even closer than that. Because this is very, like, it's got a lot of stuff on there to break up that silhouette and, like, dangly bits and stuff that you don't typically see.
I like that he's left a little bit of the local shrubbery in the vortex for us, like, tucked in around the optic. That's good. That's, again, like, this feels very John approved.
Yeah, I think, we've often talked about maximizing like your camouflage.
Do you know where he usually plays? I'm curious what the biome this is for, because this feels kind of like jungly, swampy to me more so than our area.
Border War is like Central Europe, right? So it's like I think it's in Czechia is where it's held, or it was held perhaps last time. So you are talking about like green forests, not obviously not jungle or anything like that, but you have lots of different colors of green. So you'll have probably deciduous trees and coniferous trees compared to like our forests, right? Which are
sort of a like green. Yellower green there than I feel is common in where we live. But that's again definitely like, I'm looking at this and going, the guy who did this knows more about painting guns camo than I do. This is not up for debate or discussion. Like,
yeah, there's that. That's for sure. But I think like we've talked a lot about like maximizing camo and stuff like that in the past, and like this is something that is relatively like inexpensive to do. Like, I mean, most people have the kinds of fabrics probably laying around their house, or old uniforms that you can tear up, and like that. This is very, the paint job aside, like the scrimming is very accessible, or appears to be very accessible.
Totally.
Right?
I mean, like it's funny. I'm looking at this being like, I'm pretty sure I could scrim my gun kind of like this if I just was like, hey, John, can I have the cast-offs from your sewing projects for airsoft?
Yeah. Yeah, or just find an old uniform that you don't like or that's torn or ripped and just shred it up, right? That's like totally works.
This, again, looks super functional. It's not the aesthetic I love for airsoft stuff. And like more on that in a little bit, because one of the replicas in our queue is absolutely just spot on. Like, yeah, send that to me.
Yeah.
But like in terms of practicality, I guarantee you this thing is excellent.
Yeah, I would agree. Like it's not like, I can appreciate how good and how effective that must be specifically for what Ambo does, rolling with his recon guys.
Totally.
But is that how I would necessarily kit out my replica for typical games. Like, definitely not. If I had to, like, if I was going to Border War, which, fingers crossed, maybe one day,
Sign
like,
us up.
and I was doing recon, like, would I want to do something like that? Yeah, of course. Like, I would want to maximize my concealment as much as possible, and that would certainly help that. But you're right. Like, in terms of my aesthetic, this is much more John's aesthetic than it is mine, I think, and you sort of nailed that from the get go. So where do you think we put this on the tier list?
I feel like it goes on like getting there for me in terms of just aesthetics, like not being critical of the vibe in terms of like its effectiveness or its practicality. It's just less my thing.
Yeah. I think I would put it actually looking good, because I think that although you're right, like, it's not our vibe, I can't really imagine a way that it could be better for what it's intended for.
I mean,
right?
That's fair. Like, if the goal is to be, have a gun that is sneaky, then 10 out of 10. Like, it definitely is doing the job.
And I mean, you could go as far as saying it's best of the best for that particular role, but we're also thinking about what we like, and so, like, in that respect, I don't think it goes all the way, but it's definitely it looks good. You look at that, you go, yeah, someone put a lot of thought into that.
Oh man, yeah, and like it's definitely, and like I'm not going to look at that and think anything other than like, oh man, that shit's rad, right? Like,
yeah, exactly right.
So,
all right. So next up, we have Zippy's M4. So Zippy is one of our fellow Canadians. He's from Ontario. And so let me just see what Zippy said about this. So he said it's got a cop motor, a 440 cube plant, cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks. And it's a model made before catalytic converters, so it'll run good on regular gas.
Wicked.
So no actual knowledge about what this is, other than, obviously just looking at it, it's some sort of M4.
This is very like Chris, like circa 2014.
Yes, agree. Yeah, very, very minimalistic.
Like,
it has a bunch of electrical tape on there by the looks of it. If I'm looking at the back of that upper receiver, something's holding something in place.
That is the keep the butt plate from leaving. Keep the stock on tight tape. Been there. Man, no, like it's it looks like a workhorse. It looks like it does what you're paying it for.
Yeah. And it's got a lot of the things that we sort of look for in terms, so it's got, a small optic, doesn't take up too much real estate on the rail. Yep. It's got a light, so
like, you and I both own some variant of that optic.
Yeah, exactly. There's a suppressor on there on the front, so presumably that's hiding some sort of like longer barrel inside that suppressor.
I really think that's doing there's a short barrel and a long suppressor. Again, exactly like what Chris used to run.
Yeah, and he's got that. I don't know if what the is a PTS stock or something like that. It's basically a crane stock with the two compartments on the lower side.
Which we've also those are great. We've used them.
I've recently, well, not recently, but in the last few years, switched away from using those like crane stock with the cheek weld just for a slim line, kind of like what Ambo was using before. But he had the classic one. This, so you can get some that that are a bit more advanced, but fundamentally, stock is stock.
I've switched to the narrower one myself as well. That was, I think, largely because I wanted to. I mean, I didn't need the battery space anymore once I switched to HPA, and I wanted as much maneuverability when I was doing short transitions and stuff as possible, especially with the hose. Not that it's been a huge problem, but it was I'm going to buy this now and hopefully it works, and it did.
The thing for me is when I see a replica like this, that's so sort of like bare bones, like this demands to be painted. Like this needs some sort of paint job. Like the stock collar not matching the body, like I don't, particularly care about that, but like it should get some sort of paint job. You can either go the matte route and just do something just completely vibes, which is fine. But I mean, just taking this and painting it a single color, giving it a very easy like dusting, using a mesh bag like we've done hundreds of times.
There are lots of ways to do that really efficiently. It's funny because he's got the I can tell that he plays at a field that also does paintball because he's got the paintball stuff on the front of the barrel there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which happens to us all the time. But definitely could use a paint job. Still going to be the guy who's like, I'd love a foregrip. Like, I know it's relatively short. I just like them. I find them comfortable.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I think
you know,
there's a piece that doesn't get talked about a whole lot, but I think it is definitely relevant. It's around that muscle memory, right? If you have your grip and you're accustomed to like how you're gripping the rifle ergonomically, and your grip is basically in a position that that's the only place your hand can go, then you're just building that consistency, right? Like every time you do it, it's going to be the exact same,
yep.
and that
I,
might not. Like, does that matter like a whole lot? Is that going to make a 50% difference? Like, obviously not. But I think it's like one of those things that just, it all adds up eventually to a point where that little percentage plus another percent there plus another, so suddenly you're dealing with like, okay, this is much more suited for me specifically. So I would agree with you. I think having some sort of grip there, even like a very like a hand stop. I used to run like a little tiny hand stop, um or like a shorty vert grip like what I run now, which is only about like like 2 or 3 inches tall,
I'm running a
is
short
just
vert grip
enough.
these
Yeah.
days, and it's the same kind of thing. Like I mostly use it as like a place that catches my hand more so than a thing that I grip. But
Yeah.
I found that it got me out of gripping the magwell, and I found that that has been good for just like my accuracy snap shooting. So like that's a practical change for me.
Yeah, and I
You
mean,
know,
I used to harp really hard on not holding the replica by the magwell, and I think um, there are times like I've seen Cal do it as well, hold the magwell. There's a time and place for it, and just like anything, like if you train it and you're good with it, then that's fine. But I think you're right, like making sure that you're setting yourself up so you're gripping your replica as far forward as you can is gonna make things easier. So I would like to see probably some sort of like hand stop or like a foregrip or something like that on there. So where do you think we rank? Where do you think we rank this one?
um, I mean, I feel like need something more.
Yeah, I didn't.
Like,
I didn't almost throw up looking at it, so it can't be
yeah,
that.
like it's not awful or anything by any stretch. Like
Mm.
it's there are a couple of things that I'd like here as accessories for practicality for stuff that I like. Um, I've accepted and I'm gonna follow through on like painting the M27, even though that's not my aesthetic preference this summer, just out of like an effort to be practical.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and I do like painted guns. It's not a I dislike painted M4s. It's a I just like me a black 416.
Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna look at Percolate Warriors Famas F1. I think it's an F1 Evo. Um,
Oh
yeah.
man,
So
I
I
love
don't
it.
want to just throw it onto the top tier, but let's talk about it for a second.
This makes me happy. Um, like just, I mean, 203s make me happy. A 203 on a Famas is something I'm genuinely pretty sure I have not seen before right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, like this is the gun of someone who is completely insane, but like in the way that I like.
Yeah.
um, that's probably an airsoft hollow sight replica, which means it's basically just hanging out there for the fun of it. Um, but like, yeah, this is to me both a little bit silly and also like minty fresh. Um, it looks also like he's used the like strap from a shoulder bag instead of a actual sling for it.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah. I
is
feel like,
a
yeah, if
brave man's
you,
choice. Like that gun weighs a bit.
yeah, I feel like those would probably snap off. Um, and
I
yeah,
guarantee you, I would break those within like 15 minutes of showing up at a game. And that's not a criticism, my man. Like that's just I am a me grunk. What can you
yeah,
do?
you drop your replica to draw your sidearm and the whole thing just crashes to the deck, right?
Right?
Like, no
Exactly.
chance.
Like, but
Yeah.
and I mean, part of that's that I'm too used to like a sling that will do like I could dangle off of it and I'd be fine. Um,
So, like, I love the FAMAS. We've talked about this before. This almost makes me want to throw up. Like, there's just no, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, the 203 like that, like the FAMAS typically has around the outer barrel, typically there used to be like a grenade mounting ring that you could use to slot in the actual French like grenade launcher on the
cool.
FAMAS, which is not obviously what they've done here.
I mean,
They've slapped an
are you telling me
EOTech on it.
Are you telling me they don't make the Famas specific French grenade launcher for
Yeah.
airsoft?
Yeah, seriously. I would, like I could imagine, there being a very niche market for it or like a 3D printed situation. And I know This is Flub's brother, actually, right? So I know they do 3D printing, so they could have gone that route. But I think this is a bit of a meme as well as like being a Famas, right? And so
Definitely. And funnily,
like
I'm sure it works.
I'm sure the replica itself works.
But
The rest of it, I'm not so sure.
I mean, as a piece of kit on the field, if you've practiced up on like using a bullpup, I'm sure this is effective.
Yeah.
I can't like I'm looking at it and I'm just chuckling. Like this is definitely on the goofier, funnier side for me. Like
absolutely.
Is the strap held on the front there with like wire, or is that like a leather tie?
Yeah, it looks like some sort of wire that they've
that's
clipped
just like a
into.
coat hanger.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, this is like, are they playing like a Fallout like post-apoc style game? Because like it sort of fits that vibe.
So for me, like, this needs not something more, it needs something less. It needs no optic, it needs no grenade launcher, it needs no sling. It does need a sling, but not that kind of sling. Like it needs a real sling.
It needs a sling, instead of a backpack strap.
Because the Famas would go right to the top of my list if that were the case. But in this particular context, I mean, I think I want to almost put it in the throw up, but like I do think it. Yeah, maybe we put it green. I don't know. What do you think?
Like it's that feels like the memes and dreams spot.
Yeah, and listen, if your intent was not to submit that as a bit of a meme, then I apologize.
We're not hating by any like serious measure. It's just sort of like, whoa.
Yeah, when he submitted it, he said there's nothing on it. It's pretty basic. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that it is a meme submission.
Good of you to stop by to troll us.
Yeah,
I mean that genuinely.
All right. Let's look at the next one. So the next one is Mag Goblins. This is an ENC M27. So let's have a conversation about
this is so close to perfection.
Yeah, like this is
like I said, I like me a just like unpainted black, 416 variant. Like put that on the wall and just enjoy it being pretty. It's also set up almost exactly like mine. So I like, hey Pat, what do you think of this gun that's like what you're running? That's bueno.
Yeah.
I've swapped the stock on mine, which is probably heresy, but like I said earlier, I wanted the easier to move around one. Like he's got the rail attachment point more or less for the sling, more or less where we run him. That looks like the same approach. Yeah, it's a sling, so it should be an adjustable 2-point, which is beautiful.
He's got rail covers too. Like it's kind of hard to see them, but it's the one that fit in between the rails to make it sort of smooth.
Sort of step ladder one, so like comfy.
Yeah.
I think his hand grip is too far back for me, but again, like I'm a Sasquatch. Noodly arms. Probably works great for someone who's not quite as big and tall. Has an aim point on it. It's spiffy. I think for an M27, like in terms of what you can build it out as internally, I think it becomes a really good platform for a DMR for a longer reach replica for airsoft. But like this is chef's kiss. This is top shelf for me.
Yeah, if it wasn't for a little bit of scuffing on the front here, I would basically assume that it's just never come out of the box.
Right.
Like it's
a little bit of now that you've zoomed in and I see it, a little bit of a chuckle at the pin holding the bolt catch.
Bolt catch. Yeah, that's funny.
Because like those are super easy to lose, and that's actually, as ghetto solutions to that problem go, that's actually pretty good. I might dip it down to just below perfect tier because of it, but like not really.
I know that it's heresy, but like obviously, like I prefer painted guns, so sue me. That's all I can say.
Well, I'm gonna paint mine this summer just because of like you've convinced me on the practicality of it. We'll see afterwards if I disagree after a season of gaming a painted gun again. But like it's just spiffy.
Yeah,
me like.
I think for me, like any sort of commentary that I would add to what Pat has already said would really be just nitpicking a little bit, because fundamentally, I think just looking at this serves its purpose very clearly. I think I would probably want to have the sling attachment point a little bit further forward, just in terms of like control. That's a me thing, and if that's the worst thing I can say about this,
Yeah,
that
and like, I mean, you know, the only thing I would add to it is, like I said, you know, maybe the magnified replica if you are into that, but that's a user's choice thing. That's a season to taste. And you can definitely get a sling plate for them for the back end instead of having it through the stock. And I know the stock that you're using is literally designed for that, so like, why not? But I prefer the other ergonomics. But that's not really a like practical criticism or an aesthetic one. It's just a slight difference that's a very easy tweak that, you know, is whichever you prefer, man.
And I think aesthetically, I do prefer other types of stock compared to the traditional M27. But if you take that off, then it's not really like a full M27 anymore. It's it's an M27 with a different stock. So I totally get
and like
that side
I
of it
accept
as well.
that like I've done that and that it's sort of arguably you know. I will say, like, not that I'm ever going to have a chance because I live in Canada, but like, I'd love to know if that stock is as comfortable in terms of cushioning impact as it looks.
Well, so he's actually from Canada as well. So I mean, I know, didn't we used to have one of those as well? I think Kirby had one. Anyway, that's not the point.
That stock?
Yeah,
it's in my basement. Like,
oh, you mean you mean real steel? I see what you mean.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So is this best of the best, or is this looking good?
I mean, like, we can put it in best of the best for now and move it down if something comes along that like we both think is even better, I guess. But like, it's really nice.
Yeah, I would agree. We'll put it up there for sure. All right. So that's Mag Goblins. Now we have Joshua's ENC Mark 12. So Joshua is another recon guy from Germany. So he is very much kitted out for recon.
I love a good Mark 12. Like,
so this is his replica. So it is a base gun, is an ENC M4 that he threw on Mark 12 externals on. And it's a vector optic, which is sort of like similar to Vortex.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and he's got a red dot on top of it as well.
Props for building this thing, because when I was rebuilding my M16 into, it became the sort of M4 carbine with the 249 on it. But the other thing I wanted to do with it was build one of these, and the parts are, at least were at the time, both expensive and a pain in the ass to get. So like, solid. You know, I think this is, again, like, it's not my aesthetic. It's not, generally speaking, like, I'm gonna build it to be a recce kind of guy. But you know, I like what it does. I'm curious why he hasn't painted the stock and maybe the pistol grip. And I guess mostly like they're probably tucked in enough that they're going to get lost in whatever else he's got on. But I feel like it might benefit.
I know some of the conversations I've read recently, people talking about they don't like getting the paint like on their face or on their gloves and stuff when you do paint that. Maybe I'm just, you know, not, you know, don't care, but it's never really bothered me, so I would be in the same school of thought, just paint the whole works of it. Or it could be a situation if he got the stock afterwards and put it on there.
Hasn't gotten around to it yet. Anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like it's definitely giving recon. There's no two ways about it.
You know, again, this is like, I think if you had John on instead of me, or if we had all three of us, it would be much harder to place some of these. But yeah, like, that looks great. I love the optic. I'm a little envious of the red dot.
Adjustment ring. I don't know if you've seen that before. But that helps with the variable magnification, which is pretty cool. I only learned of those relatively recently.
It is a thing I've thought about buying, but I haven't really run into a situation where I needed to adjust on the fly to that extent. That being said, like, it's on the shopping list. It's just not at the top of it. You know, I'm straight up envious of that looks like it's a real red dot, and I'm straight up envious of that. Like, that's a thing I wouldn't do.
The only thing I'm not too fussy about is the Harris bipod. I don't, like, I get that. Okay, firstly, I know that my first love, the Famas, has a bipod built in, so fair enough, right? But like, I've never really been in a situation where I'm like, it would be much easier for me if I could just deploy a bipod and keep my replica
So,
in
like,
one position.
if you're doing recce stuff and that optic is serving also as like what you're using to as your lens for observing, I suspect it becomes really helpful just because you can get prone and get behind it and like not need a hand on it.
Yeah.
So from a like long-term observation, which I kind of think is what's going on here with the rest of the vibe, I can dig it. I really can. I personally I don't like Harris bipods or at least I don't like airsoft Harris bipods. In the sense that I feel like all of the ones we've ever had have been kind of junky and kind of like they rattle, they move around, they break.
Yeah, definitely. Or the legs shoot out randomly or whatever.
Yeah, exactly right. I think we've had a couple of, I'm not sure if I still have it. Definitely one of our teammates does. Your L96 had a bipod.
Yep.
And it was rail mountable, so I just jacked it when you sold it and someone destroyed it and it came back and it was like, well, this is not reparable, but I'm keeping the parts that are useful. And like I've used that and it worked better in my opinion. But like the Harris bipod's totally the look for this. So if there's a little bit of that, like I want the vibe. I want the specific look for the Mark 12 in this kind of configuration that it's been used for, then that makes sense to me. Like it's it's interesting to see a little bit of like the simulationist cosplay piece on what otherwise is a super practical setup.
Yeah, that's fair. So where are we putting this guy? Are we putting it on looking good? I feel like looking good is pretty fair for this.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on. So the next one we have is from Raider, and this is Raider's M4. That's literally all the information I have about this.
Fair enough.
So I think, it's okay. Well, it's a Vulcan. Okay, so we can see that because it's literally written on it.
Yeah, they want you to know who made their guns.
Yeah. So obviously, it's pretty basic. It's got a foregrip and it's got a paint job. I have to say, like that kind of paint job that he's done on there, that's the kind of paint job we basically always do on our replicas, and I think it looks great. Like I have no problems with it.
He's done a good job of, and this is a thing that always bugs me about painted airsoft guns. It's very, very right, but it's funny. He has put lights where there should be shadows and shadows where there should be lights, and the miniature painter in me is like,
yeah.
But like from a camouflage point of view,
that's what you want.
Yeah, you've done exactly what you want to do.
Another guy
kudos for doing a good job of taping up all the shit on your gun that needed to be taped up so that you didn't damage your gun while painting.
But
like,
notice,
that's just props.
He painted. He covered up the grip. Right, that's another weirdo not painting their grips. Guys, paint your grips.
I mean, in fact,
that wear pattern looks great. Like I don't know what's wrong.
I definitely agree with you. Although, like, it's the amount of it that's going to be not camo is going to be in his hand almost all of the time. So, like, I guess his gloves cover it.
Yeah, but I like the vibe, right? I like the wear and tear pattern.
The stock on this is kind of like futuristic-y, which is like a little weird. Definitely needs an optic. Has a foregrip, although I keep not because the camo is on the paint on the foregrip and also on the cardboard on the foregrip. I keep being like, is there a foregrip on that?
Yeah, no, there definitely
I'm easily confused by shapes and colors. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like this goes on getting there. Like it needs an optic. It could use a sling. There's nothing in that photo to suggest that it has a sling. I
would say actually it probably needs something more. Like I think it needs a couple of different pieces to really get it to. But it has a lot of potential.
The paint job is great.
Agree. All right, let's look at our next one, which is from one of our favorite Frenchmen, Lawnmower Joe. Lawnmower Joe submitted his SVU. Now, this is a vibe.
Christ. Okay, man. Where'd you get it?
I love this. I think this is awesome.
Like, this is super, super cool. That is a rare replica. Like, just...
and it's a rare paint job. Like, this is such a specific
Oh yeah,
Such a specific way to approach painting this particular replica. Like,
he's managed to
yeah,
match a camouflage that like John and Cal and I think you own. Like, yeah, this is like 1970s Russia.
yeah, this is
Wandering
a
by
really cool. Yeah,
1980s, somewhere in there. That's super cool. Like, not at all my thing. But I
but to me,
think,
this is best of the best.
oh,
Like,
totally. That is
this is
just cool as
such a
hell.
cool replica. Yeah,
Like, that
like
is,
everything is just correct about it. Like, like from my in my, I don't know anything about Russian firearms, but like to me, like this is just everything seems right. It seems very functional. He's got all of the like the rings and stuff on his optic that would need adjustment. They're taped up so they didn't get painted. Like this looks
oh
really
yeah,
really great.
I really like it. That is a gun that I would ask to look at the field. So yeah, best of the best. Like,
Yeah,
just that is a cool thing.
it's really funny to me that the best of the best two that we have, one is like completely not a drop of paint on it. Please don't even touch it. And then this other one is like, yeah, I painted the crap out of this, and I used like it took me 17 hours or how I don't know
Oh
how
yeah,
long it
it's
took
just
them.
like,
Yeah,
it's very different vibes. But I mean, that's the cool thing about this, right? Like, you can do a lot of stuff with an airsoft gun to make it look rad, and it's not all the same thing.
yeah. All right, let's look at the next one. The next one is from Tullen. This is a RK99, excuse me, an RK95 clone, and has a Savoda MW Griffin sling and RK95 mags with a loop for roping them together.
Nice. I also a knife for filleting fish.
Yeah, apparently.
This is my AK for fishing. What?
Mm.
Yeah, this is like, it's pretty much only one thing off of how I like my AKs. I'd rather a wood foregrip than a polymer one. But I think that's just I want the slightly older vibe. But this is spiffy. It's a little worn into. Like, it's got some weathering on it.
Yeah, definitely. It has seen some games. I'm not like crazy about like the tube stock, the collapsible tube stock. I think I would prefer like a solid just for the vibe. But we're not talking about the same replica at that point, right? It's something
Yeah.
different.
I mean, if we put a full stock on it and also put a wood foregrip on it, then it's the AK I would prefer entirely. But it's also not even slightly the same gun.
Yeah, exactly right.
And like, man, like the '90s kid in me is like, this is a villain piece. Like, this is
Totally.
you are the bad guy in my James Bond game.
And like one of the things we had said the last time about the AK, which I still think is true, is like when someone is like shouldering an AK and you got the banana mag on the front, there's a silhouette or profile that you have that looks really good. And I think this is not quite exactly it, but you still have that same vibe to it. And like you're saying, like it's definitely feels like, and maybe it's because we're North American and watching North American media, but it feels like the bad guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
I mean,
right?
It's definitely that. Like, it's the specific genre and like era of stuff that we watched, right?
Definitely.
I really hope that he has camo to match that sling. That would just make me really happy. Like, tell me you have that, and like post at me on the Discord and post a picture of you in the camo with that, please. That would be great. But yeah, no, I dig it. Like, it is rad. It's definitely looking good to me.
It's definitely looking good. All right, we'll put it in looking good. All right, now we have another AK or AK style. This is from Bench. This is an AK 105.
I'm sorry, man.
Right?
Like, I mean, it's weird because I like the middle part of the 105 here, but and in terms of practicality, I'm 100% sure that what he's got done here is like a better way to run an AK than any way I would run it. But
so it's got Zenitco furnitures all over it. It weighs like 4.5 kilograms unloaded. Not that BBs weigh that much anyway, but that's what he said.
So he has got as much steel on there as he's getting. That's cool.
And it's an E&L is the brand. So it's
top flight.
Yeah. Top flight?
Yeah. He's gone for a really high quality replica. It's a really good brand.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't even tell you why like super modern rails and stuff on an AK look so wrong to me, other than that I am a 39-year-old history teacher who teaches, World War II and Cold War history, and I'm just like, it's wrong though. It does not look right. It's just
Yeah. It's like that meme, like "Niet rifle is fine." Like, I mean, I appreciate where you're coming from with this for sure. I think there's definitely something jarring about the rounded lines of the AK, like in terms of like the upper receiver and stuff, and if that's what they call it in an AK, I don't really know. But then you have all these like blocky square lines on the front and the back. So I totally get what you're saying with that for sure. It's not
the weirdest part is I feel like if you put the front and back on like something kind of future-y, I'd love it.
I will say I will give definite points, and I mean it's not like you can do anything different on this particular replica, but look how far forward his optic is, right? I love that. I think having your optic far forward on your replica is such a good move in terms of like not occupying your field of view and stuff. So that's props for sure, but I don't think it takes it all the way.
Yeah, man. And it's a really practical setup. It looks like I said, it's almost certainly better than everything I would do with an AK mechanically. Aesthetically, it is just the opposite of what I want on an AK.
And like, if you're gonna take it this far, you might as well paint it too, right on top of everything else. My opinion, but there it is.
I'm gonna say, if I had paid as much as I know he has paid for that black furniture that he's added on, I would not paint it.
That's that's fair.
There's a look there that he's going for.
So where are we putting it? On need something more, or almost threw up looking at it?
Into the pit of despair with it, man.
Into the pit of despair. Okay, Bench. Don't hold it against Pat. You can add him on the Discord later. I'm
he's
deferring
gonna be mad
to his
at
judgment
me.
there. Yeah. So now let's go to one that needs no introduction. This is Frosty's MP7.
Ooh.
So
he just sent this because he wanted me to drool over it, didn't he?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's like 95% of the reason.
Like, Pat wants this gun. Pat shouldn't own this gun. Pat shouldn't buy this gun. It's a bad gun for Pat. Like, there's nothing about this is something that makes sense for me as part of my kit, but I love it.
Yeah. This replica is awesome. It's a VFC MP7 A1. Obviously, suppressor, all the yada yada on there. He's got grippy mags on there too.
I like the rail. I like the side rails too. That is spiky.
It looks awesome. He's got the pressure plate for his pack on top of there.
Yeah, this is pretty. Like, has the suppressor, has the HK MP7 suppressor. Like, yeah. I mean, straight to the top.
Yeah, I figured that's what you would say when you saw this one. It's it looks very well put together. Like it's nothing else to add there. I think. Yeah, like for an unpainted gun, regardless, painting that I think would be a travesty.
Like, yeah, I agree. Like,
so we'll just put him right up there.
And I mean, you're probably running that for like CQB-ish stuff anyway, so like it's not as critical. But that's just really pretty.
And a big shout out to his team Arc, like that's a really spiffy design that he did.
Badass patch, like.
And I mean,
love it.
Not surprised. Ben's the guy who designed our Storm Riders Foreign Legion patch, so no surprise there. Like it looks great. So way to go, Ben. Way to go, Frosty. This is just awesome stuff.
That's sick. Like. Now that's another one on the like I would ask to play a game with this. Like,
yes, totally.
And then be sad.
And now for another one that you would likely want to play a game as well with. This is Thanos Gears RPK.
Ooh. Yes. And it's weird because like I just finished complaining and consigning to the pit of despair an AK for being modern. But an RPK, yeah. Like that is just a hateful looking gun in all the ways I like.
Yeah. I mean, I love the paint job on it. I love the fact that he's got the grip painted and he's got the stock painted. Like, that's excellent. Obviously, you don't paint the buffer tube. Like, there's no... Yeah, that's not something you probably want to do.
I mean, like, you can paint the buffer tube, but if you want to be able to see the numbers, it becomes a problem. And, like, again, it's not going to cause an issue. He's got a really nice little optic on it. He's got... I mean, like, I'd knock the AFG off and replace it with something that I like better. But that, again, is just... I don't think they're comfortable. I like a straight one better. But like, man, I want to steal it from you and put a HPA engine in it and do bad things to people. Like, I just want to chase people at my airsoft field around with it while I laugh evilly.
And like, I really like how well thought out the camo paint job is. Like, it's not just a question of like, oh yeah, we put a design on there, but like you have the fire selector is one color, but beneath it is not the same color. Like it's green here.
He took this
same thing,
apart
yeah.
to paint it. Like,
yeah,
that is
it looks awesome.
that is significantly more work to paint this gun than we often put in.
100%.
You know,
yeah.
But like, yeah, no, I really like it. I don't love the sling in the sense that looks like a
single point or something.
Yeah, like a single point bungee.
Yeah.
Which, especially for something as heavy as that probably is, feels like a little rough. But that's more of a like comfort thing. But like aesthetics,
yeah,
we like.
And what's interesting about this too is when I saw that sight initially, I was like, oh, maybe I would want that on a riser. But if you look at how low the actual stock is compared to where the optic is, it's essentially already on a riser, right?
Yeah, no, I think I think you'll get a really like comfortable sight picture out of that.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, like also a gun I'd love to game.
Yeah, so are we putting that best of the best, you think?
I mean,
it's got to.
I really like it, so I'm definitely there for it. Unless you have like a compelling reason to knock it down to looking good.
I think it's one of the best ones we've seen today for sure.
Like,
yeah,
you know,
I feel like we have to knock that M27 back down to like looking good because like the other ones that are on there are just like
It hurts me to agree, but you're not wrong. Like,
yeah, it's so stellar.
You know, like I mean, like the I love the M27. I love that M27. I love all M27s. I mean, and like it's weird because like I look at the M27 and I'm like, yeah, I want to buy one. Oh wait, our strange Russian friend there is just too cool. Like it's super weird and I love it. And like I would buy the other two guns if I could. So what do I say, right? Like.
So next up, we have Full Operators M4. So it's a Novrich SSR4.
Alrighty. So
a couple of things that he pointed out is he used 440 tape on the rail and just electrical tape on the front of the barrel there. So it looks a little gnarly in that respect. What do you think?
This is like, it's weird. The back end gives me like basic M4 vibes in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And the front end gives me like Fallout vibes. I don't know. Like it's definitely. I feel like we have like one end of this gun has been made not in like a bad way, but very like ghetto, very gangsta, like just very post-apoc. And then the other half of it is very classic, and that's kind of weirded me out, but like not in a hate it way, just in a like that's strange. I hate the optic, but it's not you, man. I just hate all of that version of the optic. It has the benefit, assuming it is the cheapo version that I think it is, of being super affordable and like working okay. I just don't like the look of them, and every time I've used one, I'm like, this is gonna catch a BB, and I'm gonna be sad.
Yeah. I'm not sure what's going on with this foregrip on the front here.
I don't think that is a foregrip.
It looks very like
behind it on the floor.
No, I think it's attached, man.
Weird.
Yeah, it's definitely attached. Definitely.
Okay, that's super strange. Because like that looks like it would be like coming up into it would chop your hand up.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking when I was looking at that.
I really do think that's just something on the floor behind it because it's resting on the barrel.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, we'll have to come back to it. If it's a foregrip, it's really weird. If it's on the floor, apologies.
You know, like the straight trigger, that's nice. Like very, very, very snappy. That's not bad at all.
I think like when I look at that, I'm like, you know what? Like it's pretty like needs something more. I think it's just sort of like at that
and like if you're gonna I do like the shoelace or whatever, the paracord on the rail, like that's pretty cool. But like paint it.
Yeah, could do that too. Yeah, I think it's okay. But it's gonna need some love. All right, second last one, our penultimate This is
Ooh.
Fugermeyer. I believe that's how you pronounce that name. You know, if it's Fugermier and it's a French name, I don't know. But anyways, there it is. This is his TM MWS.
So
This thing slaps. I like this a lot.
man, I like, again, I just making our AK owners angry, but like I don't like that. I wouldn't like that foregrip on an AK, but I love it here.
Mhm.
Like that is bueno.
That Geistly rail that he has on the front
Yep.
looks
That's
unreal.
beasto.
I love that. Yeah.
I feel like I would swap the stock out for something a little more modern from an aesthetic point of view. Like I
Mhm.
just honestly to go with the rail. You know, but like also continuing the I look too much at parts, I have a fairly good idea of how much that rail costs. So like if you're like, yeah man, I'm working my way back, legit. Love the sling.
Yeah, I would love to see like the OD rail and then like an OD stock and an OD pistol grip, like an MOE pistol grip or something that's like
Yep.
just like it's just straight, because I don't like those textured grips or with
Fancy it
the
up
nub.
that tiny bit more, right?
Yeah, and it would look just it would look
Yeah,
so good. And of
agreed.
course the Slingster, which
Yep.
is
I
top shelf.
like
Yeah.
that he posed it with the label so that we would know it was the legit thing. My man.
Yeah, well, I mean, just looking at the little catch there, that's their modern one, so it's pretty noticeable. But regardless, you're right.
Yeah, muy bueno. Love
Yeah,
the sort of classic aimpoint look. If it's a real one, you're a madman. If it's an airsoft one, they usually work well. Like,
yeah,
I can't put it at the top because of the stock, but like I will absolutely put it one down.
yeah. He says it clicks, it clacks, and it blows back. So I like it. And I would agree. I think
is that a GBB?
yeah,
Sick.
yeah,
That's super cool.
yeah. I don't think it goes to the top, but I think it's
It
looking
definitely
good.
looks
I
good,
think
man.
it's
Like
yeah,
I'd change those two things and then it can go best of the best.
yeah,
Like give me the two OD parts and I will love it long time.
yeah. Awesome. All right, and our last one. This is from Summer. This is a G&G Type 64.
This is the other direction. That's
Yeah, so yeah, it's it has an empty magazine cutoff system, 20 round real caps is what he's running.
oh wow.
And yeah, so right now he's planning on doing stuff.
This is just straight
like
up for John,
optics, man. But yeah,
like that is a gun that John would run. That is a gun like if he watches this video, when he watches this video, he's gonna be like, I need to get one of those.
yeah,
Super cool, man.
it's just so classic. Like
there's definitely a like just this is old and like scary and it looks rad vibe going on here. Like this is why I like the wood and metal AK, right? Like it just it has an age-old air of hostility about it.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to airsoft for us, I mean, like fundamentally, like they're all as modern as each other on the inside, right? So as long as they function, like you can have any form factor you like, and sometimes these classic form factors are just so.
And like they're rarer.
They fit that aesthetic, yeah.
Right.
Well,
like,
there's that too, yeah.
Like I see a lot more, black or painted M4s than I do this, right? Like that is
most certainly,
super cool. And like it's G&G, which means it should be actually relatively available. But like it's just such a this is a very very like unique to me in the sense of you're not going to see a ton of these on any field,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You shouldn't. I don't know.
I mean, fair, right? Like, but it looks super cool. Like I want a video of this like shooting. I want to see this guy's kit. I want to know what this gets carried with. Like,
yeah.
Same with our Russian friend up at the top. Frankly, like it's just I want to see more. I don't know that I want to put this in like best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Because to be honest with you, I don't know enough about the specific gun to be like, does it need anything? Could it have a sight? Should it have a sight? I don't know. Like,
and I know he's looking for one, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, and it's also like can you buy that? Do you have to buy a real steel one and see if it fits? I don't know, but like it looks super cool. Like it's definitely looking good to me.
Yeah. I agree. I think it is looking good. It's looking good because it's unique. It's got that retro vibe that we sort of appreciate in certain contexts. But it's also like you were saying, you don't see a ton of them too. And they, by the description, like it works. It does everything it needs
Yeah,
to.
man. I mean,
I think it's looking good.
like this
Yeah,
is
it might get downgraded actually if you throw an optic on there. Who
yeah.
knows?
I really don't know. I mean, it's also one of those things where like this is kind of why I like the PX4, right? This is a weird little sidearm that not a lot of people have. So it's a piece of my kit that's it's obviously not unique to me, but like that is unusual and that's fun.
Hmm.
But yeah, my man, like that is a cool gadget.
Yeah, good looking blaster,
Yeah, man.
and good looking blasters all around. I think
Yeah,
today,
like
we're grateful for the submissions for one thing, but I think like even the ones that we were jokingly like almost threw up at, obviously like that's not
yeah,
that's
like we're
not the thing, except for the Famas. That one I almost did, but
yeah.
like yeah,
Please
just
take any shade we have thrown today with like the obvious grain of salt, right?
yeah, exactly.
Like
It's really cool to see like people customizing their kit and all this kind of stuff, and really, especially for those who are in that sort of like looking good, best of the best, like really leaning into how do I make this as effective as it can be for me, or as true to the replica's form factor as it ought to be, right?
yeah, man. Or like
Um,
just as making it how you want it to be. And there's definitely like we're definitely a bit on that simulationist, like we want it to look useful and used and like practical side.
mhm.
Um, but like thank you for sharing just cool stuff with us, man.
Yeah, it was great. So, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed Pat and I ranting and roasting along with the pictures that you sent. If you'd like us to do this again, please let us know in the comments. It's definitely something that uh, we will love to do again. I think obviously you will probably appreciate this type of format more if you watch the podcast on YouTube compared to just listening to it on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. But yeah, let us know if you'd like us to see to do that again. And
Like
but until you do, like that's it.
thanks guys, this is really fun. I hope you get us to do this again, honestly, because it's a laugh.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
cool to get to see a bunch of replicas that aren't local, right? Because I mean, obviously we're getting towards the end of the winter here, and this will change every season. But like, I get to see new guns. I'm like, yeah, show me these new replicas.
Yeah, and
Um,
not just stuff that's like product pictures, like they're real that people are using and modifying and
totally,
stuff.
and
So
like,
that's super cool.
please, like, at me with pictures of like you with the gear on with these. Just I am here for it all day. I know I'm not as like pop in and chat, although I'm doing better, so like that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks guys. This has been super fun.
Yeah, thanks everyone, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.